honey, I heard the girls wanted me to give a brand new intro, so here it goes. What's going on, y'all? Y'all already know who it is. Period. What's going on, everybody? I know it's been a little minute, but I'm back. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing with me is, as a YouTuber, as a content creator, I have to be inspired in order to do what I do. I can't just get behind this camera and talk about any old thing now. I mean, well, I could, but child, who wants to do that? How are you going to do a Q&A for YouTube, a spicy Q&A, and you've done multiple? How are you going to do that? And then whenever it gets to the subject of sex, you're mute. If you're not going to be honest, then you don't need to do a Q&A. Y'all, we're going to be doing something a little bit more different, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm always saying that. I found this picture of all 9 Scream movie franchise, you know, the killers. I wanted to rank them, but I'm not going to go one by one. I'm going to do them as groups. Woo! All right, first category. Dumbest motive. Dumbest motive. And I am gonna get specific with each character. First up we have Richie. Richie was in the 2022 remake of Scream. I'm gonna call it Scream 5 because it was the 5th installment. Richie was the love interest of who is one of the 2 main characters. He was the boyfriend of Sam Carpenter. Richie, to me, as a killer, alright, so all throughout the movie, he was, you know, like the supportive boyfriend, you know, blah, 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 you know, acting all scared, like, you know, all this jazz. Acting oblivious to the Stab franchise, which, if you don't know what the Stab franchise is, it's a really creative thing or way of, okay, so pretty much in every Scream movie from 2 to 6, there have been all the way from 2 to 4, there were Stab movies in the Scream franchise, but they were based off of what was actually happening in the movies. So Stab was a horror movie franchise that was happening in the movie, but it was based off of the stuff that was happening in the script of the Scream movies, the franchise. You know, it was really creative, now that I'm thinking about it. So he was like getting familiar with, like, you know, the Stab movie franchise and stuff like that, so he would know how to maneuver through this situation with this new Scream killer. So when it was finally time to unmask the killers, Richie happened to be one of 2 of them. Richie, to me, you know what was odd about this particular franchise was, well, this particular movie was, you could never really tell who was killing who. Like, you know, in the other ones, you could tell, like, the flunky and the brain behind the operation. But this one, they kind of seemed a little, like, equally yoked. Their motive was, the movies have become, like, repetitive. I think that was, like, the implication behind, like, you know, everything. Like, the Stab movies have become repetitive, and we want our movies to have stakes. They even went as far as to kill off one of the main 3 characters, Dewey Riley, in this movie, you know, just to let them know, like, hey, this is not the same, this is not what y'all been seeing. We finna shake it up. And not to mention, it is with new directors. So it to me, it was only right that, you know, they did something daring like that. For me, I wasn't really feeling Richie as a killer. I think that they need to take it up a level. I don't like stupid. I don't like stupid motives. I almost would rather you not have one at all. Just be crazy. Next up, we have Amber. She was also in the 2022 Scream that just came out. She was the second killer alongside Richie. Amber's character was, you know, that girl in high school that you don't like, but you do like her at the same time, like a frenemy? That's what she was. She was like a frenemy. But to be honest, I don't know. I feel like they could have made Amber like hot. You know, like she could. She just looked like she had no tan. You know, thank goodness they gave her a little curl. You know, in the hair or whatever. You know, but it wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? So when she finally came out as the killer, well, one of the two, I wasn't necessarily shocked because literally the entire movie, especially the basement scene with Liv. No, that was not her name. That was the boy. That was the guy's girlfriend's name. So what was... All right, so there were these twins in the 2022 movie, and it was a boy and a girl, and the girl, when Amber and that girl, the sister, you know, one of the twins, went down to the basement to get beer, Amber was seemingly like, she always gave like these glaring looks, like she was the red herring, but I know better than to believe that every red herring is the killer. I mean, that's like some amateur stuff. But her reason was the same as Richie's. They kept calling each other, well, she kept calling him babe. So I'm like, are they like messing around like or something? Because you never see them kiss, nothing like that. But I'm like, why is she calling him babe? It was getting weird. Next up in the same category of dumbest motive, this is last but not least, we have Jill Roberts. She was in Scream 4. Now, the actress who plays her is, what is her real name? Emma Roberts. Alright, so her in real life and her in the movie had the same last name. It's cute. Alright, so anyway, she was actually Sidney Prescott's cousin. Now, if you don't know who Sidney Prescott is, where have you been? You can't be a 90s baby if you ain't never, like you don't even have to see the Scream movie franchise to know who Sidney Prescott is. Like, if you know Ghostface, you know Sidney Prescott, period. So, she was Sidney Prescott's cousin, and pretty much her motive was she was jealous of Sidney and she wanted to be Sidney. She wanted to be the final girl. She wanted to be the only survivor. She wanted that fame. She wanted that success. She wanted everything that Sidney had. She was obsessed. She was jealous. You know, now I think that qualifies as a dumb motive because you meaning to tell me you orchestrated this killing spree. You couldn't have just worked to get there. Now, you gotta also realize, Sidney did not work to get there either. I mean, she wrote her little book or whatever like that, but she did not ask for any of this. She was the victim, and she turned her being the victim is to her being the star. Her being successful, you know, making money off of this. She's gonna, you know, she managed to turn something negative into a positive. You have to applaud her for that. Not like this woman, Sidney Prescott, has gotten shamed because of her mom's past. Like, people coming after her because of something that she didn't ask for, this fame, this fortune. And I'm like, that's not her fault. And like I said, she did not ask for this. This fell in her lap and she made something out of it. She wanted to change the narrative and she did. But anyway, because I can go on and on about Miss Prescott. That's my girl. So, anyway, Jill was seemingly, you know, in the background, seemingly, you know, just kind of, it's kind of like that killer in plain sight thing. I'm spitting and whatnot.
You ain't got to tell me everything.
Next up, these two were, okay. So I'm going to attack them together, but separately because they were in two different movies. All right. So you have Billy Loomis, the Okay? I'm gonna say the Scream killer. Period. Okay? Nobody has been able to top him, like, on the phone, like, his aggression, like, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Billy was that guy. I'm sorry. Sydney was that girl, and Billy was that guy. That's why they was together. They was a couple. Sure, you better get into it. Billy Loomis was on the original Scream. And Mrs. Loomis is his mother, who was on the sequel, Scream 2. Now, let's get into their motives. I think that they had... Okay, so Billy was second, having the second best motive. Mrs. Loomis was the third. I'll get to the first in just a second. Let's do Mrs. Okay, no, we're gonna do Billy's first because he died first. All right, so Billy was in the first one, like I said before, and Billy's. All right, so Billy's motive was his father was cheating on Mrs. Loomis, and nobody knew with who. Mrs. Loomis abandoned him at a very young age. Left without a trace. Didn't say bye, no hug, no kiss, no nothing. She was gone. Okay? So, it then later came out that his father, Billy Loomis's father, was cheating on Mrs. Loomis with Sidney Prescott's mother. Now, okay? So, the person who told Billy this information then groomed him to become, to take that anger that he had from being abandoned and turn it into rage, into murder. He groomed him. He just kind of put that battery in his back, if you will. And then that just, all they needed was a plan. He had to find a scapegoat. And that he did. Because I believe the scapegoat did most of the killing. I think when it came to attacking Sidney, it was Billy most of the time. Because that's who he was after. He was upset with... I think his thing with Sidney, because Sidney didn't actually do anything to him. But, I think he was after Sidney due to envy, jealousy. She grew up with two parents. He was robbed of that upbringing. He was robbed of that experience, and in his own twisted, psychotic way, he blamed Sidney as well, alongside her mother. Billy actually killed Sidney's mother. Yeah. Him and his sidekick killed Sidney's mother and framed Cotton Weary. If you don't know Cotton Weary is the one who, okay, so he was mentioned in the first one, died in the third one. Ooh, child, I can't count now. And he was mostly in the second one. But he was framed for, what's her name? What's her name? It's not Mrs. Prescott. They didn't call her that. They call her by her first name. What was her name? It was, whatever. It was Sidney's Sidney's mama. Okay, look it up. Sidney's mama, Miss Prescott. What was her name? Now I want to know it. Maureen Prescott. That's what it was. I knew it. I'm like, come on now. You can't get over on me. Like, I know this franchise now. All right, so. Yeah, so Billy killed the mom a year prior to him starting to try to kill Sidney, like, and go on this killing spree with his accomplice, or sidekick, I should say. So Billy's motive was, it was good because nobody really saw it coming. Like, when he was saying it to Sidney, like, even Sidney was just shocked. Because she didn't know, she didn't know her mom used to bust it wide open all over town, child. Well, Sidney's mom got around, and the only thing that made it bad was that she was married. Well, no. She was busting it wide open before she got married. My bad. Okay, so yeah. Yeah. So that was Billy's thing. You know, he had abandonment issues due to his dad sleeping with Maureen Prescott, and you know, then he just psychotic. So, excuse me, he died in the first one. Sydney killed him, shot him in the head, and yeah. Now onward, forward to Mrs. Loomis. Okay, I actually enjoyed her. I really did. She was a great actress. Now, she was in Scream 2. And the way that they introduced her to us, she went by a reporter named Debbie Salt. As an alias, of course. That's not her real name. And she was particularly infatuated, not like romantically or sexually, but she was infatuated, you know, and with Gale Weathers. Now, Gale Weathers also shot Billy first, but she didn't kill him. Sydney killed him because she shot him in the head. That's the only way you can kill a psycho, is shoot him in the head. So, but Gale took that first shot. So, what Mrs. Loomis did, what her MO was, I'm going to go after Gale and Sydney because they killed my baby boy. Neglecting the fact that she completely abandoned him. And if it had not been for her, not saying it's her fault, I'm just saying she kicked it off, you know? If the guy never had abandonment issues, Billy I'm talking about, none of this probably would have kicked off. I mean, he had to have been abandoned to get this whole thing flowing. You know what I'm saying? Now, I just feel like Mrs. Loomis. Okay, so I don't think her reason for becoming the killer was dumb. I just think it wasn't good enough of a good enough reason to fly into this murderous rage. But in her defense, she did have a airhead sidekick who did all the killing. She only, like I said, she only went after Gale and Sydney, allegedly. So, oh, and Randy. She killed Randy too. Yeah. Because Randy was talking bad about her son on the phone. Like, she had called as the killer. She was calling Gale's phone, but Randy picked up the phone. Now, if you know who Randy is, I don't know where you been, child. You can't be no 90s baby, okay? But, Randy was in the first Scream, the original, and the second one. And he died in the second one. She killed him. Mrs. Loomis killed him. Because she called Gale's phone hoping to talk to Gale and have Gale have her first ever ghost face call. But Randy picked up the phone, and then it ended up being him and the killer. And then, you know, once he started bad-mouthing Billy, it was done and over. Like, she grabbed him, pulled him into the news van, and just got the slicing and dicing, and ooh, it was graphic, honey. It was graphic. But yeah, I mean, that was her motive, and you know, it was just good old, like she said verbatim, she said it was good old-fashioned revenge. You killed my son. That's how she said it. Yeah. I made a mistake. Okay, so I said it was 3 categories. It's actually 4. Okay, so we already did dumbest motives. Then we just did second and third place motives. Now we're gonna move on to our third category, which is, drum roll please, dumbest accomplice. First up, we have Charlie Walker. He was in Scream 4. Charlie was he was cute in like this geeky, like film student kind of way, which that's what he was. There was this particular scene. I'm sorry. Did y'all hear that? Like, the ambulance is so rude. Anyway. Okay, so watching breakdowns over the years, allegedly, Charlie Walker did all the killing. He was alongside Jill Roberts in Scream 4 as the killer. Now, when it came out that Charlie was the killer, Charlie seemed pretty cool, calm, and collected. He seemed a lot more you know, aware and what's the word? He seemed a lot more aware and more put together than the other two I'm going to talk about in a couple seconds, because they seemed a little, His reason was he was in love with Jill, and he couldn't have the girl he really wanted, Kirby, so he settled for Jill. And Jill didn't love him anyway. Jill was playing up a role because she wanted an accomplice, and she saw that as a way to get one, so that she did what she had to do. So yeah, she played him, he played himself, and then he got himself killed because Jill shot him. Next up, we have Scream 2's Mickie. He played the killer alongside, what's her name? Mrs. Loomis. Sorry, I had to mute the TV. Okay, thank you. I had to mute the TV. So he played the killer alongside Mrs. Loomis, and Mickey's motive was, what Mickie ultimately wanted, he wanted to get caught. He wanted it to go to trial. He wanted to go viral. He wanted like the fame. He wanted to be infamous, and Mickie was a little nutty cuckoo, but Mickie was fine. Like if you don't think he's fine, then to each his own. But Mickie was fine, and it was very distracting. And he was also a great actor as well, alongside Mrs. Loomis. I wish they would have been like in later installments, because let me just say, Sam Carpenter, the girl who plays Sam Carpenter, she could have did a lot better. And I feel like, I'm not saying put them in her place, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I would like for that to be like an earlier movie. The acting was so superb. My standards have risen. So I would have liked for it to continue down the line. Like, you can't just go down when it comes to like the acting, like the caliber, like it's just, am I making any sense? Next up, we have one of the original Scream killers, Stu Macher. Now, he's even mentioned till today, like he's apparently a fan favorite. I don't know why. Maybe as a killer, I don't know. Stu Macher was funny. Now, I'm familiar with this actor. I don't know his real name, but I've seen him in Scooby-Doo. If you haven't seen Scooby-Doo, the People version, that came out in the earlier 2000s. I don't know where you've been. You cannot be a 90s baby, okay? But, he's always been like somewhat comedic relief. And, he took away the seriousness that the first one really like had. Like I always say, like, what my very first time watching the first Scream movie, I was like young, and I watched it broad daylight. I'm talking about sun shining through the window, bright as I don't know what, and I was scared out of I was shaking in my boots. Scared, and I'm like, normally it would be, you watching a horror movie in the dark and you get scared. No, ma'am. This was, I'm telling you, broad daylight. It had to have been like between 11 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like on a summer day or something like that. Like, just think sun just beaming. I had no reason to be scared. And I wasn't even sitting alone watching it. It was like 3 other people, I think. It could have even been 4 or 5. But it was terrifying because it was those phone calls was so like aggressive and just, it felt like I was on the phone call. I'm like, wait a minute, how you gonna call my line and be talking crazy to me? I don't even know you, or do I? But yeah, Stu was probably the dumbest accomplice, because he just let Billy just tell him whatever, and quiet as kept. Maybe Stu had like a thing for Billy, like how Robbie had a thing. Not Robbie. I just talked about him. Charlie Walker. I like how Charlie had a thing for Jill. Stu might have had a thing for Billy, because, you know, I'm like, how you just gonna let him talk you into murdering all these people? Stu literally had no motive. Except for having his best friend's back. Stu had no motive. Now, he did also, again, having Billy's back, helped in raping and murdering Sydney's mother the year prior. It was just sick. But again, you know, Stu goes down as one of, like, I don't know why. I think he goes down as probably one of the more iconic ones. I think because he's in the classic, like, you know, the original, you know, that he's still praised to this day and mentioned even. But that's about it. Now I am excited. Okay. Let me bring it down. I am so excited to announce this next one. This is the last category, which is the best motive and the best killer. I'm gonna get into his teas in just a second. Now, it's only one person left, and if you know the Scream franchise as well as I do, you know exactly who I'm referring to. I am referring to Roman Bridger. Roman is fine, number one. Like, can I just throw that out there? Is that all right? Can I just throw that out there real quick? Is that appropriate? No? Okay. Roman to me is the best killer because he pulled off the most elaborate killings. Like, who chases a whole cast around a mansion by himself, killing them? Like, Roman is the only one who's taken on a group at a time. Like, what was it? It was the black guy from Sister, Gail, Dewey, and the girl who played Dewey in one of the Stab movies. He took on 4 people at one time. He just walked into the room like he was that guy. He just knew. He was like, y'all ain't finna take me down. What's up? You know? No other Scream person has done that by themselves. He was the only one who took on a movie and didn't need an accomplice. He managed to slither to the end of the movie until it was time to unveil himself. Nobody suspected Roman. Come on now. Because he and Sydney had never had a scene together. I thought that was brilliant. They've had scenes with the same people, but never with each other. It was brilliant, and I'm gonna tell you why it was brilliant. Roman's motive was he was Sydney's half-brother. Sydney's estranged half-brother. Sydney's half-brother who was given up at birth. Now, let's go back. I told you that, you know, prior to her getting married, Maureen Prescott was busting it wide open to all the little men in town. One of them was Roman's father. We haven't seen him yet. Maybe he'll come up in the next movie. Who knows? The only reason I think that might not happen is because allegedly Sydney is not returning to the franchise. But whatever. Who needs her? Anyway, only because she don't want to be killed off. But anyway, so she was busting it. Okay, so she had Roman, gave him up. Roman's motive is a lot similar to Jill. He became obsessed with Sydney. Her upbringing, the fact that she had the mom that he never had. And, you know, the family dynamic. She had both her mom and her father. I don't know if he had his father. He didn't get into that. He never even mentioned his father. But, you know, the upbringing, the success, the victim turned hero, the star. Like, he was so jealous. Like, he it was so deep rooted. It was more deep rooted than Billy's motive, than everybody else's motive. It was the deepest to me. And I told you that there was someone who told Billy about his father creeping with Maureen Prescott. It was Roman. Roman came to Billy, gave him all the information he needed, gave him some pointers, some tips, right? Because Roman had already lost it, you know. But he wanted like a domino effect. And when the last domino fell, he was going to appear and do his big one, you know, and finally kill who's seemingly the unkillable Sidney Prescott. Which he failed, but anyway. So, he is the one who got this whole thing in motion. Now, no, he did not have contact with every single killer, but he didn't need to. It was a domino effect. Again, he started with Billy. Billy got Stu involved. Then they died, right? First movie. Second movie, you have Mrs. Loomis. She found Mickie on a psychotic killer webpage or whatever, however they met. It was online. She met him because of Billy. She got together with him and started killing because of Billy. Revenge. They died, right? Then the third one is when Roman wanted to come do his big one. And then he died. But after Roman died, the fourth one came, and, you know, that's when Sidney had got like probably the most press. Her book had came out. Her cousin had came up. She all her life she'd been hearing Sidney Prescott, you know, and she's sick of it. She wants to be Sidney now. She wants the attention that Sidney has always gotten. She wants that fame that Sidney was afforded. You know, and she got I keep wanting to call him Randy. That's not his name. What's his name? Charlie Walker. Okay, so Jill got Charlie Walker involved. You know, they died. Ciao. And then, you know, completely unrelated because it's a brand new storyline. It's not all wrapped around Sidney anymore. It's a brand new era, which is why they don't need Sidney anymore. It has new directors, new storyline, new characters. Now, was Sidney, Gale, and Dewey mentioned and appear in this movie? Yes. Dewey's gone. Nev Campbell only showed up to the, put it back up. Nev Campbell only showed up to the fifth one because it was paying, she was given the absolutely that it would pay homage to Wes Craven, the creator of the Scream franchise 1 through 4. He passed. So she showed up for that. But when she saw that they knocked off Dewey, she was mad. And she didn't want to come back because she felt like she might have been next. I think if anything, they would have knocked off Gale. But it is what it is. What she doesn't realize is they could easily write her out of the script. They could easily... Y'all remember on The Chi, was it second season or third season? When the main character, the black guy, the chef, who was selling food out of their food truck, how they didn't have him back and show him being killed, but they killed him off and had a whole funeral with his picture and everything. They could literally do the same thing to Nev Campbell, Sidney Prescott. Like, don't think it can't happen to you, sis. Okay? But anyway, Gale's the last one standing. And Roman, to this day, nobody has topped Roman, like, as far as, like, you know, and forget about, you know, the whereabouts of where the killing happened or how it happened. Like, he did it by himself. He was a one-man army, like 10 toes down. He didn't need no accomplice. He didn't need no backup. He didn't need no fall guy. his plan was worked out. Like where he went wrong is that he didn't kill Gail and Dewey. The key to getting to the victim is killing anyone around her or him that could help them in the end. It is because of the distractions of Gail and Dewey trying to get into the room with Roman and Sydney to help Sydney that he ended up losing Sydney, and Sydney got away and ended up getting him. Now he got. You know what I'm saying? And then he got capped at the end. Oh, child, I can't. Now, I want to take a look at the Scream 6, which is coming out March the 10th, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. They put out a little sneak peek trailer. I want to take a look at it. Shall we? Roll the clip. Oh, he getting closer.